Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name is Victor Kiarie, the Millennial Architect. So by profession, I'm an architect. So I'm in the business of giving people homes, building people's homes. And whereas I wanted to have a conversation comparing buying a house versus building it yourself. And whereas I know a lot about building a house, I can tell you the process that it goes into it. I realize I don't have enough information about buying an apartment or buying a house. And if, as an architect, I don't have that good information, that means a lot of people also don't have that information. So that's why today I've brought on a guest who will introduce themselves. And I want him to take us through the process. I used to think that buying an apartment is just take your money, go to the person selling the apartment, give them the money, write an agreement, and you get into the house. But apparently that's not how it works. So leo tuko na kijana beshte yangu anaitwa Kefa. So I'll let him introduce himself.
My name is Kefa Nganga. I'm a real estate agent and a real estate professional, trained at the University of Nairobi, and I run a real estate firm. It's called Nala Real Estate. We provide listing on our website, nalaestates.co.ke. We also provide building materials at our hardware. So we retail glass, paint, and plumbing.
First of all, thank you. Thank you for coming. I know taking time off your busy schedule, so we really appreciate. And I know that you're going to learn a lot. So, as a young guy, venye tumegrow up in Nairobi, tumeenda shule, and sometimes I look at how our parents did things. For example, I remember 10, 12 years ago, land in Juja was 6K to 60K for an 80 by 100. Yeah. Say it's almost unbuyable. Yeah. I get. So ukiamua kununua shamba, unless wende uko deep Machakos, wende deep Kitui, wende side ingine Naivasha. So now if you work in Nairobi, then that's unreasonable. Yeah. So I think that's where the point of maybe buying an apartment seems like a more realistic approach. Yeah. First of all, what do you think about the land prices in Nairobi? Because let me qualify that. I always see people talking about the real estate market in South Africa versus Kenya. Yeah. You'll find that $1 million house in South Africa is way, way better than $1 million house in Kenya. Yeah. So what do you think about that?
You see, real estate boils down to demand and supply. That's it. Right. So Nairobi, by its nature, is very small, vis-a-vis the number of people who live here and the number of people who are looking to buy property. Yeah. In fact, were it not for Kiambu, Kajiado, and these places that are around Nairobi, it would be impossible to buy land in Nairobi. Yeah. So the comparison is unfair in that most people see one picture online or one listing online and compare with one listing in Nairobi. Yeah. But they don't look beyond that, at the background, what forces people to sell land the way they do. Yeah. Because you see, if you have an object that you're selling and so many people are looking to buy it, then definitely price goes up. Yeah? So we have a land problem in Nairobi, but also we have a planning problem in Nairobi. Yeah. So ideally, we do not have structured residential areas, commercial. We don't have that. We don't have industrial. Yeah. So what that means is that any piece of land becomes, you're looking for maximum utility. So that pushes prices up.
Oh, so that's why you'll find places like South Sea, ama ukienda Kilimani, Kileleshwa. So if someone owns half an acre there, it doesn't make sense for them to build. Yeah. They just have to build an apartment to get to bring out the full value of that land. Yeah,
absolutely. Because you see, if you have land in Kilimani, for example, now, it's so expensive to sell that you are likely not to get a buyer. Yeah. Because you see, land, there's a certain threshold where land becomes very expensive. Yeah. And that is a big problem people don't get. Yeah. For example, if you own land in Karen, for example, an acre, and the quoting price is 300 million. Yeah. There are very few people who are on the market looking to buy land worth 300 million. In fact, someone with land in Juja, an acre in Juja, has more buyers waiting to buy. So the alternative is to build a block.
So densify.
Exactly. Or if put something on top that can give you money, right? So a lot of people are sitting on property in Nairobi that they cannot sell. There's no one buying. So all you have to do is now build something so that you split and sell individually.
But you've said that cost is driven by demand.
Yeah.
So if there's no demand at that cost, so why are they costing it at that?
You see, the demand is so let's give figures, between say 7 million to 30 million. There's density in demand. There are so many people there.
Okay.
If you go to 40, 50, you have 5 guys. If you go to 100, you have one guy who's very choosy. You get. So what they do is, if you have an acre, you build apartments so that you can sell to the guys who are paying 10M, right? So you have 100 guys or 10 guys who can afford now. So that's the process that informs these buildings that are coming now in regards to pricing of land.
And so with that in mind, let's say I'm a young guy working in Nairobi Westlands Labda, and I'm considering, okay, I need to own a house. Is buying an apartment something to consider?
Well, that question, the straight answer to that question is it depends. By that I mean it depends with your situation. A lot of people blanket it and say buying an apartment is bad, or it's better to build. But you see, there are certain factors that are central to individuals, right? Where they come from. If your parents live in Karen, then buying an apartment in Westlands does not make sense. But if you come from Western, for example, you do not have. You ideally have to make the investment here.
That's the person, and I think that's majority.
Yes,
that's the majority. So si kila mtu ati budake akona land Karen.
Absolutely.
So umetoka Nakuru, masomo ndio ilikuleta Nairobi. So let's say you're 32, you have a nice job and you have good access to credit. And so instead of kujenga nyumba in Kajiado ama Machakos, you're considering, does it make sense?
It makes sense for some people. I think this question, the answer, I'll not give you a straight answer.
So it depends. That's where consultation comes in.
Yes.
Maybe.
So when you come to me, I'll look at your case individually.
Okay.
If you pay for consultation, for example, you're going to show me your finances, you tell me where you're coming from, you tell me your story, because stories are important. What informs your decision to buy. You know, there are people who are looking for homes because where they come from, they do not have homes. They don't have land where they come from. Suddenly they can access cash, capital. There are people who are looking to buy as a sign of prestige, right? There are people who are looking to buy because they can afford it, just because, right? There are people who are looking to buy because they have bad experiences with land.
With land,
So it depends with who are you, right?
So it depends.
Yes. So ideally, consultations vary.
Okay.
But assuming that you want to buy, then the conversation now shifts to how do you buy? Right?
It's a good question.
But if you do not want to buy, then there are other options that we can give you. So consultations boil down to individual.
All right.
You state your case, we evaluate it, then we give you the best case scenario for your finances, and for who you are, your personality as well.
That's interesting.
So
let's say, for example, I was reading an article by one of these real estate firms. They were saying, like, you can complete the process of buying an apartment with them within 2 weeks. Is that realistic? Could you take us? So let's set up a scenario. Let's say venye tumesema, I've come across some cash ama some credit, and I've decided that based on my needs, an apartment is what works for me. Where do I start?
I think it's not true first. It's not true that you can buy an apartment in 2 weeks. That is, you can put up a deposit, you can pay. But you see, buying is a long process. Paying is transferring money. Yes, you can pay for an apartment the same way you pay for a car, right? But buying an apartment is a wholesome process. So first of all, if you're looking to buy, the first stop you should do is look for, there are certain acts that control laws basically that control the buying and selling of property across Kenya. Yeah? You're going to look for an act called the Land Registration Act.
Okay.
You're going to look for an act called the Land Act.
Yeah.
And if you're looking to buy an apartment, you're going to look for an act called the Sectional Properties Act of 2020.
Yeah.
So those laws are the entry point to home ownership.
Okay.
Entry point to home ownership is not an advert.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, before you make a decision,
yes.
you should understand exactly what the process is as stipulated in those laws, right? So, assuming you found, say, a developer, now there are very many architects are developing property all over the place. So, assuming you found you've seen an advert from a developer, you go home. First step, Land Act, Land Registration Act, Sectional Properties Act. Yeah. Go through them. It will not take you long.
Yeah.
Once you've done that, then the one person you need to call next is a lawyer. I'm assuming if you can buy a house, you can afford to have a lawyer. Lawyers are rather important in that regard because they will hold your hand on the legal bits. Because buying a house is a legal process. It's not a transaction. So the lawyer will assist you with several things. They'll interpret the law that you read, right? They'll also detail down the process legally for you to understand.
Okay.
And now you're looking for property lawyer. Because you see
the specific...
Yes, you're not looking for a criminal lawyer, you're not looking for a corporate lawyer, you're looking for a property lawyer. There are law firms that offer that service. So that's the first person that you need to retain. Because you'll need them for quite a while. The next person you need to talk to is a professional real estate agent or a real estate professional, someone who is trained. The University of Nairobi is training, where I've trained, JKUAT is training, KU is training. So ideally, and I think Technical University is training.
Okay.
So also I think there's an institution. It's called the Institution of Surveyors of Kenya. They have a list of guys who have been trained.
Okay.
So do not pick those guys who have posters all over the place that they offer this service. You need someone who is going to assist you, hold your hand across. So you have those two guys. Those guys are going to be important.
Let me ask you about the two guys. We know what the lawyer does. Because we all know what lawyers do.
Yes.
So for these registered real estate, what do you call them? Professionals.
Yes.
What is their role? Are they supposed to help us source, like look for properties? Are they supposed to, for example, how do I know like I'm paying market value for it? Something like that. Are they the professionals to help me with that?
Yes, absolutely. Those guys are going to, one, source the house for you if you have not found something that you want within your budget. It's called site acquisition. So ideally, you tell them, I'm looking to spend 10 million. I want 5 bathrooms, 5 bedrooms in this area.
They're based on your needs.
I want access to a school, to a hospital. I work in Westlands. All those things, you write them down. So they're going to check within their portfolio. So, for example, myself, I look at my listing. If I don't have something that you want, I'll find it for you. I'll also assist you to do a valuation. Valuers are registered by ISK. They quantify the value of a house. Ideally, they'll come to the property you've chosen, right? And they'll tell you that washroom is 50,000. The bathroom, doing the bathroom is 100, kitchen. So because you see a house is a sum of things.
So it's like a bill of quantities.
Absolutely.
Done after.
Yes, post construction. So they'll tell you the value of this house as at now. They'll put a figure to it so that you know between the price they give you, right? Because the price is usually a market defined price. The valuation is market driven. So they tell you this toilet, this specific brand of toilet retails at this amount. You have 4 of them. This sink retails at this. You have 5 of them. You quantify land on this in this area is this much.
This much.
Yes, constructing this is this much. So that you know between the price you get from the professional and the selling price of the company, for example, or the developer, you see the disconnect. Of course, you expect developers to make money.
Yeah, because of course they're in business.
They're in business.
Yeah.
So, but then you don't expect them to make
triple.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You see, as a reasonable person, the professional is going to tell you, in this area, this apartment would cost this much.
Yeah.
So that you see if it's close to what they're telling you. Yeah. So now you decide, do I want to pay them this profit, right?
Or it even gives you like some bargaining power because you're coming from facts.
Yes. And those people are going to assist you because once you've retained them, they're on your team.
Yeah.
So when you go to talk to the developer, you have a lawyer, you have someone telling the developer, no, but the price is this, right? They assist you to lower the price if you're looking to bargain as well. So they also assist you with processes to buy.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So ideally, they inform you, they cover the blind spots you have to home ownership. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So that ideally is the work of that profession.
So now we have a lawyer on our team and we have a registered real estate professional.
Yes.
So we've identified the apartment.
Yeah.
And we have someone checking the legal documents.
Yeah.
So what's the next step?
So what you do once you have those guys, you've had a conversation, you've told them your needs, they have found a place, assuming now you're on the table now.
Yeah.
So the lawyer is going to assist you do what we call due diligence legally. Okay. So they're going to check ownership documents because you see ownership documents are what transfer property to you once you decide to own it, right? Yeah. So the lawyer is going to handle that bit. So they'll check the title because the developer is supposed to provide you with ownership documents that probably title deed.
Yeah, title deed. Yeah. But now at this point, let's say because usually it's an apartment in Upper Nairobi.
Yeah.
So it's a big apartment on one piece of land.
Yeah.
So is that saying that the title should be in the name of the developer? Yeah. What happens if the title, let's say they had this what is it called? If I own land and like a joint venture, they had a joint venture with the owner of the land. Yeah. So the developer is building. So at that point, what if they tell you that Gina, the title is still under the name of the original landowner? Yeah. Though they have a joint venture. Is there room for that?
There is room for that. Joint ventures are registered legally, so there is room for that.
But so it's up to the lawyer now to find the chain of custody, like something of the sort.
So the lawyer will check documents. Yeah. See, this title is in someone else's name. Yeah. So they will ask, why is this title in another guy's name? I don't see. Yeah. Then so they'll get an explanation for that. Yeah. If it is sound, then they will tell you that it is sound. Yeah. Ordinarily, you find that the ideal situation is that if I'm selling you property, it is in my name. Right? Okay. We've done transfers because you do not want to become a buyer who is buying property that belongs to someone else. Yeah. But the lawyer will let you know that there's a joint venture that is in place. It's registered. The transaction is going to move in this direction. Yes. So that by the time you make these decisions, because they are very personal decisions, you have enough information. Yes. From the lawyer.
Okay. Yeah. So you've determined. Okay. So the lawyer now has looked into the documents. Yeah. I don't know whether you're not a lawyer, but I'm sure you'd know. Yes. What is the process that the lawyer is? So what is are there documents is beyond the title deed?
Yes.
What is he looking for?
So the lawyer is going to look for a copy of the title deed. So it should be provided by the person who is selling. Yeah. So this copy, they are going to take it and go to what is called a land registry. Yeah. So ideally, there is a national land registry, and also per county there are registries. So it's close to you. So if you're in Nakuru, it's close to you. If you're in Embu, there's one there. So the lawyer is going to go to that office. Yeah. It's a government office. So they'll go with a copy of the title and do something called a search. Yeah. So the search is basically them trying to find in the national registration of land who owns the piece of land.
That is now comparing with what you are told.
Absolutely. Yeah. That means also if I'm selling, it's an individual selling and the land is registered to their name, they must also provide verification, say an identification number, passport documents that were used to register the land.
All right.
So that the lawyer is comparing the name on the title and whatever is registered and the name of the person. Yeah.
There's a case that happened.
Yeah.
I think I was reading about it in the papers.
Yeah.
People had bought apartments.
Yeah.
Like really nice apartments, I think in Kilimani.
Yeah.
And then later it turns out that that land belonged to a government, I think a government parastatal earlier. So you see, the land belonged to someone else, but apartments have been built and have already been sold.
Yeah.
So at that point, what was the pitfall?
The pitfall was in verification and lack of information at the purchasing point. Because you see, there are so many guys in Nairobi who are they're not straight.
Yeah.
Especially in real estate. That's why you need these guys. You need a lawyer to work with you because there are guys who build nice houses on people's land.
Yeah.
There are guys who build nice houses on railways land.
Yeah.
There are guys who build nice houses on playgrounds.
Yeah.
So
by the time you guys are finding out he's made his profit.
Absolutely.
He's gone.
He's not around.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, you see, it's usually, real estate is usually on a willing buyer, willing seller.
Willing seller.
So once you have established that, if you're willing to buy at the time, you're going to lose money. So ideally, that's why you need a lawyer. And people make jokes about lawyers and all that, but they're going to save you a lot of stuff in terms of, losing cash, not making the wrong decision legally. Yeah. They're also going to check that the title that this person has is legit. It's not a fake.
So if everything kila kitu iko verified, tumeona okay, fine, these matches with that. So now do you just pay?
No. So you sit down with the developer. Yeah. So the verified documents.
Yeah, the
of what we call the
verified.
mother title. The mother title is if you're buying an apartment, the land that the house, the block sits on. Yes. So you verify those documents are right. Yeah. So the next process is sitting down now to discuss that particular unit. Yeah. By this point, I'm assuming you've gone to the place. You've touched the sink, you've opened the taps. Yeah. It's working, right? You like the place, you like the views, you've checked quality, because quality of fixtures. Absolutely, yeah. So once you've done that, now you sit down to negotiate. Yeah. You'll agree on a price. Yeah. At this point, what is prudent is to, assuming you've accessed finance, you have the whole amount. Yeah. So what is prudent is to deal through a lawyer. So ideally, you have a lawyer, right? So you transfer the cash to the lawyer first, right? So, and that person who is selling also has a lawyer.
Okay.
So the transaction now is not between you. The lawyers are on the table, So because you see sometimes, or rather, the process of buying is rather long. Yeah. Transfers take time. Yeah. So to avoid pitfalls along the way, you transfer to ideally a holding with the lawyer. Yeah. So you pay them, they'll probably pay that guy another 20%. Yeah. So assuming you want to buy property worth 10M, they'll pay that guy 2 million.
2 million.
Then you start the other processes. So you also need to do an agreement that is a legal document. It will be prepared by that guy's lawyer. Yes. Once they prepare an agreement, you give it to your lawyer. So your lawyer has to be on your team because they have to go through that document and see whether there are issues within in the fine print, because real estate contracts are very nice to look at because no one looks at the fine print.
Something maybe you can help us. I think this is where the Sectional Properties Act comes in. So E-block, let's say this block has 30 apartments, right? And it's sitting on an acre. So if I buy this house, how do I get a sectional title? So what relation do I have with the rest of the tenants? Because a sectional title is based on the mother title. So that almost means like we share a title with the other 30 tenants. Sindio? So are these now the terms that are occurring in that? Is that the fine print you're trying to look into?
Yes. So ideally, if you buy a townhouse, you buy in an estate, right? These gated estates. If you buy on an apartment block, the certificate you get, the certificate of title you get, whether it's you'll get either a certificate of title, depending on whether it's a freehold or a leasehold. I think freehold is, you understand, ownership is perpetual. Perpetual. Then this other one, the lease is limited to a few years. So, but it's usually for a unit. Say you're buying unit 1A on the first floor, right? But there's someone who owns 1B. Other guys own units, So you get a title for the unit you own, right? And then you also get a share of what we call common amenities, right? Common amenities are stairways, playgrounds outside, parking outside, water resources, sewage outside. So you're ideally not just buying the unit.
So it's stipulated in the contract.
It has to be stipulated in the contract. And the reason that act was amended.
Is there a pitfall?
Absolutely. So if the reason that act was amended and that law in 2020 was because they had developers were coming up and selling apartments without selling other services, amenities that come with the apartment, So it was ideally supposed to cure that problem.
Okay.
So that you're not buying an apartment, because most people come, they don't know anything, they buy an apartment, right? Then, assuming you're on the 4th floor, and then you don't buy rights to the stairway, parking, swimming pool, playground, if there's a clubhouse, right? So ideally, that problem is cured by that law. Okay. That is what is called fine print. Okay. So your lawyer is supposed to tell you exactly there's something wrong with this fine print. And then you go back to the table, you tell them, I don't like this. So they're going to explain. They should give you an explanation that makes sense. Legally.
So let's say, so in this sectional, again, we have 20 apartments. 20 people have bought these apartments. So if we there are common areas that we all own. Then at what point do they leave the developer's hand?
You see, ideally the corporation should be formed when you start to process the first sectional title. It's automatic. So ideally it goes hand in hand. By the time the registry is processing a sectional title, then it's also ideally those are some of the requirements that will be there. You know who owns the other units. If it's the developer, then the sectional title is going to be registered against their name, right? Because they're going to transfer to someone else, right? So if you are the first person, yours is registered to your name. But again, what a sectional title does is that it gives you a share within that corporation that is formed. Assuming you own one apartment, you have one share there. So ideally, if the developer has 20 units and you own one, the moment they transfer, they transfer, they keep amending, updating. So, and you should not listen to stories, because developers like to give stories. A lot of stories that don't make sense. So you're looking for someone who is straight. If someone is developing, they must know these things. Yes, and if they don't, their lawyer should tell them, so that they are afterwards there is no issue. Because the corporation you form is going to control common areas. That means the stairs. It means parking, security.
So things that cost money.
And that make money.
So and sometimes you hear that apartments have service charges.
Yes.
Sometimes. In other cases, unasikia ati service charge is more than rent that is paid in that area. So is that also stipulated in there?
Absolutely. So what happens is that once you form a corporation, assuming in this situation the developer has sold 20 units, so they are owned by different people. They are members of the corporation. They have shares in the corporation. So you sit down and you say, okay, we have costs. Our costs are security, garbage collection,
landscaping,
water, landscaping. We need someone to garden. Our costs are this amount. So ideally, you divide those costs for each member of the block, right? Say 20 units. So if your costs, depending, you could hire expensive security. If you hire expensive security, then your service charge climbs. It's just straight. So if it's water, you decide you're going to pay this much for water per unit, right? Electricity ordinarily is usually provided by the provider. But in terms of how much you pay for service charge, if you own an apartment, you have to have a say. You have to have sat in a meeting and agreed if you bought the apartment from someone else, that person already had that conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, but you have a right to sit down and agree, we are going to pay 100,000 for security for this development.
Yeah.
And we have 20 units. So everyone is going to pay 5,000 for security, right? Per apartment.
Yeah.
Then you decide garbage. We are going to pay 100,000 for garbage collection every week for a month.
And it's the company that decides who we are going to get for that.
Yes, that decision has to be made at that level. And so they're also going to decide, we are going to hire, say, you can hire a manager.
Yeah.
What people call caretakers.
Yeah.
We are going to hire a manager. This manager is going to decide ABCD, if it's who to give contracts for security, because a lot of politics come from there. So once you've sat down, you've agreed this contract is going to be a 1-year contract. We're going to give security to this guy. So the company sits down and decides that.
Okay.
Yeah. So that ideally the law provides for a closure of loopholes for that kind of process. So that if you buy an apartment, if service charge is 20,000, you had a say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a chance that, let's say again, we have 20 units?
Yeah.
That the developer, let's say, sells 9 and retains 11.
Yeah.
In such a way that now they have the voting rights.
Yeah.
Like they can sway the voting rights.
Yeah.
Is that something that is taken care of in the Act?
So the problem with developers in Nairobi is that they want to retain ownership of common areas.
Common areas, yeah.
So they'll sell 20 units, but they own the shops downstairs.
Okay.
Assuming you have front-facing shops.
Yeah.
So barber shop, kitchen, all those things.
Oh.
So ideally, you just own an apartment, but you don't own the shares around those things.
Oh, so if you owned the common services, that means that the revenue coming out of there ingetumika ku offset some of your costs.
Yeah.
So how long? I had read somewhere 2 weeks.
Yeah.
How long on the minimum?
On the minimum, 3 months. It takes long. Ideally, you could have in the agreement that as the process goes on, you can move into the apartment. But you see, the process involves you have an agreement, you register it with the registry, there are transfers to be done. Yeah. Those are legal. I'll go into them, but those ones, your lawyer is supposed to handle those things. So ideally, you should retain them for the period until that transaction is over. So you should have a good relationship with your lawyer as well, so that they take you through until the last day where you are issued with your title.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. So when it comes now to a point you want to sell your apartment, you're selling your shares in that corporation.
Yes, by law, once you transfer, the process for transfer of an apartment or a title to an apartment or a certificate of ownership of an apartment to someone else, you ideally automatically transfer if you're honest. But there are guys who are not. So ideally, it should be automatic that if you've sold this unit, you've sold rights. Ideally, if you visit, you come as a guest.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting conversation that we've had. And I think the saying yenye nimependa ni kununua apartment, si kununua mandazi kwa duka. There's a process to it. Make sure you're following the right process. Work with the right professionals if you can afford it. But of course, you can afford it. Make sure you familiarize yourself with the Sectional Properties Act. And at the end of the day, you'll be all grateful for that, for it. So thank you for your time. And if you have any questions on the things that you're talking about here, buying an apartment, if you have any questions on building, because at the end of the day, we are builders, be sure to drop a comment on it, or maybe send me a message, and I'll be sure to reply to you. So thank you, and chonjo. Dakata hiyo part. Yeah.